Do you suffer from debilitating migraines? You know, that throbbing pain in the front or side of your head that's so severe you're unable to work or do anything other than retreat into a dark and quiet room? Have you had them for years and just haven't found a solution? Call Dr. Elizabeth Ebersol and put an end to your debilitating migraines forever. Or go to her website at www.handmadehealth.com. That's www.handmadehealth.com.
Well, hello, everybody. This is Balls to the Wall, episode number 22. My man, Billy Martin Jr. How are you doing?
I'm doing swell and in the library tonight.
It looks nice. I like it a lot. I like that. I like the open look. Spazzes it up a little bit. It's a different scene. Hello, everybody. I'm Kenny Matthews, hosting here with my man, Billy Martin Jr. Hey, we do appreciate you guys listening to us every week. It's my favorite hour of the week. And we want you guys to subscribe to us at YouTube and Rumble. It's very easy. Just hit that subscription button, tag it. It'll let you know when our episodes come up, when they're downloaded. Really helps us out. That's how we get a little compensation for this. So we greatly appreciate that. And please tell others, listen to us at the gym, on your walks, whatever may be the case. I mean, we don't talk politics. That was the number one rule and probably only rule on this show is to not talk politics. We're not going to ever do that. It's just going to be sports, going to be opinionated, and we'll talk a lot of, various sports too. And that's not baseball, but, when lists come out, we're always going to come out and talk about those things. Billy and I kind of like those. We like random stats too. So, please, if you got any suggestions to us, please offer them up. We'll take it. We're thick-skinned. We love questions, any of that nature. We'll bring them up in future episodes. And like we said, we promise you guys we're going to get some guests coming up here in the near future too. So that's going to be really good. A nice little niche to this. But Billy, here
We'd love to hear you guys tell us what kind of guests you want to get.
Yeah, that'll be good.
I mean, we'll try to get. You want guys from the past, the present. You want who we think is going to be a future star, let us know.
Well, I just got back from Spokane this past weekend, so I talked to my buddy Drew Timmy. He said he's going to come on with us after the season's over, so I'm looking forward to that. I know for him, he's hoping it'll be a national championship, but coming up one game short last year. But anyhow, we really do appreciate it. I know it's a lot of fun for us, and we're going to start off, and we won't bury this, to death, but our main man, Juwan Howard, we got a little feisty this Sunday against Wisconsin.
I think everybody got confused because I think somebody said Juwan, and he said, "You want some of me?" And next thing you know, a fight started. But I gotta admit, I love that it matters that much to him. A former NBA guy. He's got to have a ton of money, right? I mean,
21 or 22 years in the NBA. So, yes. And he was one of those first guys that had that big inflated contracts back in the day. If you remember, he was one of the first ones. So, yes, money should not be an issue with Mr.
Right.
Howard at all.
No, so he's not doing this to add more money to his generational wealth. I mean, he's doing this because he loves it. And for him to get that worked up over something, I'm sorry. I mean, look who my father was. This fires me up a little bit to some degree. Now, it sounds like it was much ado about nothing, that maybe he should have chilled out a little bit. Maybe he forgot to take his Zoloft that morning. I don't know. But at the end of the day, that's who I want my head coach to be. I want that kind of fire. I want that kind of drive. And you know what? I bet his fans forgive him.
Well, I think that he brought a little of the old school Chicago out of him, a little bit, where Ward put his hand on him a little bit to try to stop him in the line. My thing is that he's had a few of these kind of episodes already, being in the Big Ten. So I think he has to know that, I'm on heightened alert now for my actions, during and before a game or after the game. So you got to show some restraint. My deal would be is this, as coaches always say, do things with class. Don't embarrass, the team. Don't embarrass the university. You preach that from day one. You're sitting in front of the parents, the athletes' parents, and you're telling them that you're going to make them a better man. That looks bad when you do that because it sounds like you lost control. And that's the one thing you always preach to your players. Keep your head in the game, don't retaliate, those kind of things. So, with so much turnover now in college basketball, probably not that big of a deal, but it is interesting is how do you go preach that going forward with this group when they're all going to go, hey, what did you just do, coach?
Well, there's also in all these situations, things we don't know, right? And if you listen to the other coach talk, he was awful smug about it.
Oh, yeah.
And
no love lost between those two at all.
No. And so we don't know what else was said, what was chirped as they were walking through that line.
Absolutely.
We don't. And so if we found out that word that was said or that extra thing, or maybe what he thought was said, maybe something he heard that meant nothing at all. But, what if some guy said, hey, Billy, you're having a bad hair day?
Yeah.
When you have hair like mine, I'd be pissed because I'm like, what do you mean? My hair's awesome. I'm ready to start a fight. I know we are a couple guys having bad hair days together, but at the end of the day, we don't know all of the story.
Sure.
Nobody ever does. And as much as, yes, you're telling your kids, keep your cool, keep it together, and then you lose it. I think there are certain things that we all respect that in the game. And I know one of the other stories we're going into today is talking about a guy whose number was just retired for the New York Yankees. And part of what I liked about him was his fire and his anger and his getting pissed when he failed.
Sure.
He would be the guy that you saw that. And I'm talking about Paul O'Neill. But I do love to see that with an athlete.
Oh, like Michael Jordan, he didn't want to lose in anything, set with him until the next game. It just a crawl. Now, let me ask you this to be like a little devil's advocate. I was thinking about this yesterday. What about if this would have happened in the locker rooms or behind the locker rooms, not where the camera was there, not at the end of the game where you have all this? What about if you just hear there's some pushing and shoving altercation in the locker room? I don't think it gets near as much media attention as it was. It's just that it was on CBS Sunday afternoon where everybody got to see it. And it's not like it was a huge deal, but it still was a deal, obviously. And 5-game suspension, he's getting fined for it, and those things really, to me, those are just kind of to save face, say, hey, we did something on that. The grand scheme of things, it really doesn't matter. Phil Martelli's been a coach and NCAA head coach for a billion years, so he's going to take over for the team going now. I was wondering if he was going to lose the team, but Michigan is up as we speak right now, playing in the second half without two of their best players who also were suspended for the altercation the other day. So obviously the team hasn't quit. So maybe it builds credence to what you were saying, Billy, is that they feed off of that raw emotion and enthusiasm. And if anybody knows Juwan Howard, he bleeds Michigan. That is one thing. He's been very big in trying to get Michigan to put those banners up with the the Fab Five, getting reunions back at our, Chrysler Arena for Fab Five. He's been the ringleader in that. So, you can't dispute his love for that university at all. That's for sure.
No, and it probably also bespeaks on maybe what I was saying was right, that there's more to this story than just what was released. Otherwise, maybe that team does quit.
Yeah, there could
I'll
be.
tell you what, I saw the University of Michigan play baseball this past weekend here at Globe Life Park, and I expected them to be the furthest team behind, obviously, because
right.
in kind of a cold part of the country. Man, I was impressed. I saw some really good players, well coached team, and that team might be a College World Series type team this year.
I read where they were, and them in Indiana were kind of the top spin in the Big 12, preseason. And Michigan's been known to have a really good baseball program. That their softball and their baseball have been, their softball's been extremely good. They're World Series champions about 5 years ago, as a matter of fact. So yeah, that's I think now with the players being able to play, that's the fall league so late, and then playing in those indoor facilities now, they're not just grabbing a cold bat now when they come down here in February. They've gotten a lot of hacks and a lot of cages. Now, seeing live pitching and seeing a cage are two different things. I do know that.
Absolutely.
But it's not like it was before, where these guys really couldn't pick up a bat or do anything until week or four or a couple days before game day. So, but yeah, that's I think Mr. Howard, I think he would like to have a do-over, but I do think from what you had said, Billy, and I think it makes a lot of credence to it, it shows it means something to him. It shows that it means a lot to him. And that's the kind of guy that you will run through that wall for. That's for sure, because he's got your back.
Yep.
No,
I'm kind of, as crazy as it sounds, I know we never know the whole story.
Yep.
And
the timeout call pissed him off. He was thinking he was trying to run it up the score and making the timeouts and all that other kind of stuff, still coaching in a big blowout game. I guess it's kind of like, what do you say, the unwritten baseball laws, that get crossed. And, that's when you do get some, you get some nerves, and tension for sure for that.
Absolutely. And then what was said, what little side smirky comment came out? Oh, you didn't like that timeout, coach? That just that one little comment could make a man like that snap.
Absolutely.
I mean, it wouldn't happen to me. I'll always keep my composure, but I'm teasing. I'm a Martin. I get it.
You learned from the top.
I learned from the best. Yeah. It's a family tradition, as Hank Williams Jr. might say.
I'm always right on the field, and if I'm not, I'll apologize in the next bar.
All right. Well, let's talk about the Yankees. They just retired another number.
Yes. And I told Billy yesterday about it, that Paulie O'Neill, formerly of the Reds, that came over to the Yankees. I believe he's with the Yankees for 11 years or 9 years. I think it was 9 years.
Close to a decade.
Yeah, 4 world championships, obviously. A gritty guy. You want to talk about a grinder? The word grinder means, he would foul off tough pitches. He was never a free swinger. He was never going to be a guy that was going to swing on the first 3 pitches and miss all 3 first pitches. And he also came to a lineup that already had established stars, because you already had Posada, you had Bernie Williams, you had Rivera, and you had Derek Jeter already on that team. So Paul O'Neill comes from a leadership position from the Reds, winning the championship with the Reds, over to the Yankees. I mean, he had to kind of fit in, and that's not really – I don't think Paul O'Neill is one of those guys that just fits in.
Right? Absolutely.
He could rub you the wrong way. He could be a red ass for sure. There's no question.
Sure.
One of the most competitive guys that you'll ever see out there. And as you said, Billy, he may be the most passionate guy that came through the Yankees in a very long time.
And I love that. You know, I do. I love guys that wear their emotions on their sleeve. And now, but he did it the right way. Some guys carry it out too long. You know, if he struck out, you saw that instant anger, that right. And then you see him get it back together and let it go. It's just, for me, it's the same thing with joy. You know, when you hit a home run,
right,
you see that instant emotion, and then okay, I got to get it together. I can't show up this pitcher.
Right.
I need to duck my head and jog.
Didn't run the bases. Yeah.
Yeah, but those first couple steps to jump up and down, I get it. What I don't like is the act, the bat flip that's been worked on, the little 2-man dance,
or the 2-minute trot around the bases, Mel Hall.
Oh my gosh, yeah. But even the buddy dance that the guys do, the whole special high fives and stuff, it's like, come on.
Now,
you know,
did you ever have a problem
take it otherwise?
Did you ever have a problem with the Jeffrey Leonard one man shop, dude, when he ran?
Oh yeah, that
one man flap.
That gets up the run the base. Yeah, that gets a little awkward too. But one of my real Christian clients said something to me one day. He's like, he was a pitcher, and he said, "So what? Some of these hitters, they only love God when they hit home runs. You know, they point upstairs when they cross the plate." He goes, Pedro Martinez pointed up every time he left the field, whether he got his ass kicked or he kicked ass.
Right.
He pointed up when he left. And I'm like, well, you know what? That's interesting, because in the past, you had more Christians that would walk up and do the sign of the cross as they stepped into the box.
Used to see that a lot. You don't see that anymore. Really, no.
No. And it was when he said it that way, I'm like, wow, I like that. You're right. I like that better. I love God no matter what happens this at bat.
Right.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to digress, because Polio, it's, to me, he was kind of a gel for that team, a glue for that team. He was, because he was the red ass, like you said. I think that's good for teams sometimes, because all those other guys, that whole middle of that team came up together, you know, through the minor leagues.
Yeah.
When we had Bernie and Posada, Cano and Jeter.
Yeah.
And then you may have Pettit on the mound or Mo. I mean, that was a tight core.
And that's a vet. I mean, that team, they were in their primes too in that time when he came there. So, you know, Paulie O'Neill gets there. He's probably, you know, he's maybe at the tip of his prime, I would say, at that point in time when he got there. Still a damn good ball player, don't get me wrong. But I mean, he wasn't the same player that he was when he was with the Reds, but he was still an extremely tough out. But I think he made the players like Jonathan Hayes and Scott Brocious become grinders. You know, I think those guys, you know, the Jim Larricks that, you know, were free springers. You know, the only one that was still stayed that way was Cano. And I don't think he ever stopped him from being a free swinger anyway. But I mean, he even made, the guy I'm trying to think of that played second base for them that would have been the MVP of the World Series against the Diamondbacks.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I can't think of his name right now, but it'll come to me. I mean, you know, he even made him sometimes take pitches, I think, you know, because he didn't want to get that stare from Paulie O'Neill from the clubhouse. I think that's the one thing. I think Paul O'Neill brought the bad cop to the clubhouse. You know, you had all these good guys like Posada, Jeter, Bernie Williams, who weren't really in your face, raw guys. Paulie O'Neill, you dogged it, You heard about it.
Yep, you sure did. I found a couple pretty cool stats on him that were impressive. He played 235 consecutive air-free games as a Yankee. Think about that.
Especially
I mean, and we're talking a big arm guy, right? I mean, he had a freaking hose, man.
Yes.
He was very good defensively. He was an all-around player. That was impressive. And then he became the first 38-year-old major league player in history to steal 20 bases and hit 20 home runs. He was the first 20-20 guy at 38 in the history of the game. That's pretty impressive too,
That's
right?
Pretty impressive at 38, especially considering the fact that by that time is when the game was getting away from stolen bases. Generally was just your top leadoff guy, maybe your second guy that was stealing bases then, because it seemed like the American League was waiting for the 3-run homer, at that period of time.
Right.
And he played in the steroid league, era. I mean, he played in the height of it.
Well, okay. And so what I just said doesn't help us to now wonder if maybe he possibly was doing that. I don't know. I don't know how much I care, Kenny, because at the end of the day, like we talked about with them putting in Ortiz, how many pitchers that were pitching to Ortiz were on steroids? Right. How many pitchers that Barry Bonds face were doing steroids, or that Roger Clemens threw to, how many hitters were on juice? I mean, we don't know that side of it. I think I do from being in the game. I think at least half of them were doing it. But
I mean, it was almost. I think a lot of them may be getting forced to do it because they think it was a competitive edge because so many of their peers were doing it. There might have been a lot of people on the fence that weren't going to do it. And then when they started seeing these numbers go up and these guys getting big contracts, they kind of like, see monkey, do monkey, see monkey, do monkey. I'm like, hey, I used to be a better, here's one guy, Brett Broom. He was a good MLB player, second baseman, I would say, in the American League. All of a sudden, he became Hercules over 1 year and started hitting home runs everywhere. So for all those second basemen that weren't doing it, and all of a sudden now he's in the All-Star game, so you're missing that bonus. He's getting this fame. He gets that 4-year deal with Seattle. I mean, that takes money out of your pocket when guys get better than you. So You're going to look for an edge.
Absolutely. No, it's even, a lot of people think it was about the strength that you gained from it. It was really more about the recovery. Because you could throw a bunch of pitches, and if you were on juice, your arm felt great the next day. And, those guys woke up every morning feeling refreshed. And when you're playing 162 games, in way less than 200 days, I mean, it's a grind, man. Your body feels like crap. And so that was the beauty of steroids. Waking up, I feel great, baby.
Yeah. And not everybody had the Andy Messersmith arm. They can go out and pitch every day for 4 straight months, I mean, you have to rest it. But I thought it would have been huge is when you played, 13 games out of 15 days, and maybe 12 of those were on the road, being able to bounce back the next day from a hotel room. Easier to bounce back in your own confines, but being on the road wears you out. And that steroids definitely gave you a competitive edge to keep that up. There is no question, But yeah, Paulie O'Neill is he's one of my favorite guys. My question to be to you is, does his number need to be retired amongst, and I have the list of the Yankee retirees here, And number 1 on there is a guy by the name of Billy Martin. Number 2, might have known that guy. The only number that's retired twice. I didn't quite understand how Jeter got the number. I thought that, did your dad give him a blessing? Did this happen before or after? When was Dad's number retired at Yankee Stadium? I guess I should say
1986, and kind of neat, Kenny. I was doing an internship for the Yankees that year.
Oh, nice.
I was a junior at Texas Tech and did an internship for the PR department, and I literally got to spend an hour a day helping plan Billy Martin Day. And
that's awesome.
I got to call in all the old bets. The Ranger owner, Brad Corbett, who fired Dad basically over a song, it always said, when they retire your number, let me know. I'm giving you a Rolex because I'm the idiot that fired you. And he showed up, and that's exactly what he said. It was hysterical. He walked out and he said, "You people don't know how much you love me."
Wow. But
I'm the idiot that fired him so that he could become Yankee manager. And just the crowd went nuts, right? And he handed Dad a Rolex that day. And his favorite scotch was called Chivas Regal. And I called the company in. They delivered a case of Oil Salute, their high-end scotch, and just
nice.
I get to do that a little bit every day, and it was really neat. It was one of the best days of my life to see Dad. He was so proud to be,
a Yankee. He's so proud to be a Yankee.
Oh my gosh! Yeah. And just like his most famous quote was, "I may not have been the greatest Yankee to wear the uniform, but I was the proudest." And that epitomized who he was, and to be put out there, with all those greats. The only thing I still get a kick out of is, and I'm sure George did this on purpose, but if you always notice, Dad's number 1 is right next to Reggie's 44. And it's like, They don't have him next to Jeter. They don't have him next in numerical order next to number 2 and the Babe and everything. Why is he always next to Reggie?
They will always be linked. They'll throw dirt on us. Well, after that, they'll still be linked. There is no way of getting around it. Those two, man. It is oil and water, baby. There's no question, man. Well, heck, I will go through it quickly here. I mean, obviously, we know Jeter at 2, Roof at 3, Garrett at 4, who I think is still probably one of the most underrated all-time players to ever play the game. If you see his numbers, it's ridiculous. DiMaggio at 5. DiMaggio missed 3 years of his prime, so I can't even imagine what more would have,
the most famous player of his era, too, by the way, is DiMaggio. Yes. I mean, you should hear the stories of Mickey Mantle talking about how he could barely even talk to him. He was so nervous because the guy was married to Marilyn Monroe. He was,
when I was growing up, he was Mr. Coffee Maker. He was Mr. Coffee Maker to me.
Right, sure.
I had to go back and read on what this guy was. But from what I understand, he's the most elegant speaker. I mean, wasn't a man of many words, but when he said words, he grabbed the attention of the entire room, not half the room, the entire room, from what I understand.
He was like a big brother to my father. He's a Bay Area guy.
Yes.
And so he would take Dad out to dinner and made Dad feel special because Dad was from Berkeley and
had the Pacific Coast League ties.
Absolutely. Yep. And another thing, Dad played jokes on him. Treated him like one of the guys, which he loved because he was such a star that, like I said, Mickey told me, he said, I could barely talk to him the first couple of years. And he's like, your dad's playing jokes on him. Well, I'm just tongue-tied while I talk to him. And, think about that. Mickey Mantle, we're talking about one of the greatest players ever play the game.
And was not a shy pro.
No. No, and his 2 numbers down this list.
Well, and him and think about this. If Joe DiMaggio would have maybe retired the year before, maybe Mickey Mantle never rips up his knee in the outfield. He tried to stop running in the outfield because DiMaggio called him off at the end, and he steps on that little water trap deal out there. And from what everybody told me, Mickey Mantle was never the same athletic person after that. So, you got the passing of the torch of DiMaggio leaving and Mickey Mantle coming in, but you had a wounded thoroughbred the rest of the way who still put up big time numbers. Here's the other one, Joe Torre at 6, obviously, winning all those championships in there. You can't dispute that at all. Mantle at 7, Yogi Berra at 8, Bill Dickey also at 8. These are the 2 8s. I understand why this happened because you weren't thinking about retiring, jerseys at that era. Phil Rizzuto, 10. I mean, with his obviously calling the Yankees for 30 plus years also on the radio, he deserved it, obviously. Thurman Munson at 15. I know that's you and I, one of our, soft spots for Thurman. Oh, yeah. Whitey just passed away at 16. Posada, this is where it kind of gets little for me, because I am I'm the small of Hall of Fame guy. Posada needs to be his name retired in this list here? I'm not so sure about that, because when I've read these guys, they're icons. I mean, they're heavyweight. Posada, you raise the eyebrow a little bit, don't you?
Well, I mean, not anybody else you've named is a Hall of Famer.
I mean, every name except your dad, who will be there one day, is a Hall of Famer. And so I went, okay, then the next person's up. You and I both like him. Well on his way there. Number 23, Donnie Baseball.
Oh,
he's on there. Now, I think he's a bigger case to be retired, with those greats than Posada is. To me, Posada is not a Yogi Berra or Bill Dickey. Not by any chance. No, he's not. But you can put Mattingly up there with those first basemen that played for the Yankees, no question.
Because you look at his numbers, and there's a good 6-7 years where Donnie Baseball was absolutely the best first baseman in the American League.
Average power and defense.
Yeah, absolutely.
All the way around. So this is one where I would say, yes, he's not a Hall of Famer, but he should be one of those guys. Here's the other guy that's not a Hall of Famer, but is good, close with your dad that's in there. Number 32, Elston Howard. Now, Elston Howard needs to be on there because he was the first black coach of the Yankees ever for the first thing. But he's also got an MVP. He's also got a whole bunch of championships. And your dad, bless his soul, big with your dad.
Oh, absolutely. Well, he was the first black Yankee as a player. And think about what he had to go through. And he's playing on the same team with Yogi, who was, so beloved by Yankee fans. I mean, where do you think the Yogi Berra cartoon came from? You don't think they stole that name from him? He didn't get a penny from that. But, Elston played back then. And come on, Elston was great, man. I mean, he's the starter for any other team in the American League, probably, and
well, the Yankees traded a very good first baseman and Vic Power away just because they didn't want to play a black player. He was ready to be in the big leagues. They traded him. Now, they got a pretty decent guy in Roger Maris back, But, I mean,
right.
But yeah, I mean, but still, I mean, they did not want to have a black player. So finally, when he broke through there, that's huge. I mean, nobody really talks about that. But I mean, for anybody to be the first black player and the first black coach for the Yankees, yeah, he's in there. And even though he's not a Hall of Famer, and I understand he's not a Hall of Famer. He was a very good He was a very good player, though. Don't get me wrong. Yep. But he wasn't a Hall of Fame. He wasn't a Hall of Famer. 37 is Casey Stengel. We all know, yes, he should have been in there. No doubt. Mario Rivera at 42. No doubt. Reggie Jackson at 44. No doubt.
No doubt.
Then it gets a little tricky here. 46, Andy Pettitte. Is Andy Pettitte the icons that these other pitchers that may be on there? There's only one other pitcher on here, and that's Whitey Ford. And Rivera. You're talking about two of the big-time Hall of Famers right there in Whitey Ford and Rivera, and now you're putting Pettitte next to him. I'm not so sure that's fair to those two guys. Just me personally.
One thing I will say that he did, that he's one of the first guys to really do this in the spotlight, was how often, starters throw their 100 pitches. 2 days later, they have a bullpen day.
Right.
Andy got to the point where he used his bullpen day on the field. The Yankees had him throw his bullpen live.
Yeah.
He came out and threw middle of the game, late in game innings for the team. Did that in the postseason a ton. And so that gives him a lot of extra points in my book.
And he was a tremendous postseason pitcher too.
He was clutch.
He was better in the postseason maybe than he was during the regular season. And you can't say that much about most guys. And I don't want this to be like a hit against Andy Pettitte. I do realize his greatness. There's no question. He was, and I mean, and what he did for that young pitching staff back then, he was a big time mentor. Yankees had a lot of pitching coaches back in the day, but Andy Pettitte was the only consistent pitching coach they had for about a decade there.
Yeah. Right on.
And of
course, from Texas, he's great. So
yes.
But you're right. Is he in that same?
Is he in that same genre? And here's another guy that did it in the 70s. Has kind of got the same bullet points as Andy. That's Ron Gidger. No, you couldn't have found a better pitcher for about a 5-year period there, from about 76 to about 81 than Ron Gidger. Is that long enough to be having that number right next to Mario Rivera and Whitey Ford? I'm not quite so sure. I mean, I love Louisiana Lightning. I love this 25-3 record and 1.78 ERA that he had that year. I love that he gutted it out against the Red Sox at Fenway in the play-in game that day, gave everything he had on 2 days rest. I'm just saying that when you retire a franchise like the Yankees, to me, it needs to be mortal. It doesn't need to be a doubt. You got to say, oh yeah, that number should have been retired a long time ago. What took you so long? You don't say that about Ron Gidger. You don't say why that number took you so long to retire. Great, good pitcher though. Not great, good pitcher. Had a great year though. He did have one of the greatest years ever.
I'd say great, not Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I mean, you wanted to give. Oh, okay. I forget what year it was. I was traveling with the team. And if it was the year he won 23, this cost him a game.
Wow.
He had a giant chew in when he pitched. I mean,
he did.
Just it looked like a damn. You could see Spalding on the side of his cheek. It was like a baseball sticking out of his cheek.
Him and Oscar Gamble.
Oh yeah. I used to wear Oscar's pants.
Woo!
when
One of my favorites.
Pete Sheedy would. Hold on,
I got a great Oscar Gamble quote for you.
Yeah.
He says, when I'm in the batter's box, I'm in scoring position.
Nice. Nice.
Go ahead.
Well, Gator's pitching a game. This is like the third or fourth inning. He's winning a game, and there's a line drive hit up the middle that he leaves his feet for, and he falls and lands right on his back in the middle of the mound, right on the rubber. It hits his mouth, and he swallows his chew.
Oh, God.
And I mean, it was huge. And the guys run out there, and trainers out there, Gene Monahan's out there, Steve Donnie, they're all out there. And he's like, get me off the field. I'm about to puke. They hurt him off the field so he doesn't puke on national television in the middle of the ballpark. But they win that game, and he'd already pitched 3 or 4 innings. Oh, and it was, that was one that awesome. I'll never forget it. But,
that's great. And the last number on this list is number 51, Bernie Williams. Bernie Williams is maybe one of those guys you can argue could maybe be in the Hall of Fame. I've heard the argument. As much as I love Bernie Williams, I don't think I could have voted him into the Hall of Fame. I just think that's for the extreme. But if Bernie Williams' numbers is retired, Paulie O'Neill's number can be retired right next to Bernie Williams. I think those two are comparable.
absolutely.
Especially
Well,
with
here's
Paulie
something.
Go ahead.
All these guys we're talking about, the ones that are on the edge for us too.
Mm-hmm.
One thing they all did, and if you think about it, this epitomizes what the New York Yankees are about. They were all post-season badasses.
Yes.
Every one of them. You can look at their whole career.
Very good point. Very good point. Even
but
those
in the
guys that I'm doubting
postseason,
were good postseason guys. Everyone I doubted were great postseason guys. Yeah.
Everyone. And if you even look at O'Neill, and I don't know how to break it down. I saw these numbers the other day. His postseason numbers in general with the Yankees and the Reds are very respectable, but they're better with the Yankees. So his Reds World Series probably wasn't as good as his 4 with the Yankees were.
Right.
And Pettit, I know they were good, right? I mean, Posada, pretty good. I mean, that's
Bernie
part
Williams
of why my father's number one's hanging out there.
I think Bernie Williams may have had the record for most home runs at one time in the postseason. I think he held that record for a while. It's been since broken several times, but still. Yeah.
No, come on, how clutch was he? I mean, I remember a game here in Texas. Darren Oliver gets the start for the Rangers against the Yankees.
I was there.
Okay.
On a Friday night.
All right. So you remember he's winning the game 1-0 in the 8th inning, right?
Yep.
And Johnny Oates trots him out for the 9th inning. And why that was weird, why that sounds weird, that was the first 9th inning Darren Oliver has ever pitched in his career. Maybe in his life. I don't know about his life, but I know in his career. Yeah. Rangers said he had an unusually thin rotator, unusually thin rotator cuff. And so they always pulled him a little early. So he'd never seen a 9th inning. And they had a pretty good closer that year.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting with my partner watching this game, and he's screaming at the TV, put your closer out there. Don't put him in a position where he can't make a mistake. And so what happens? He gives up a little duck fart to right and a walk.
Yep.
And then Johnny puts in the closer. And then Bernie gets up and ends the baseball game, basically. And
Oh,
And
yeah.
I don't know. That was a great game, and it was a weird series for me because Kenny Rogers had been with the Rangers the year before, and now he was on the Yankees. And and you always wonder, maybe had he stayed and had that, because he gave one up to the Rangers. That was his only postseason game he played that season.
I was about to say he was awful in the postseason. Yankees that year.
Well, he never should have left here.
No, he wasn't a Yankee anyway. His personality wasn't a Yankee anyway.
No, he was media sensitive, and media sensitive guys need to be in
Whitson,
media.
Ed Whitson Part 2.
But I love Kenny. I mean, I used to play golf
the same way. Kevin Brown's the same way. This weren't Yankees.
Yeah, that Kevin Brown wasn't the teammate like Kenny Rogers was. Kenny Rogers was actually a pretty good teammate and a good guy.
Kenny, I should. Yeah, you're right. I'm not preferencing him. He wasn't like Kevin Brown how he is on. Kenny Rogers, everything I've heard, was a good teammate. He was just the media. I mean, he was, like you said, very media sensitive. Yeah. And you're going to the hotbed of media sensitivity in New York.
No, I was playing golf with him one day, and we were listening to sports radio, and literally on the 6th fairway, he's calling the hard line to straighten him out on a story they're talking about.
That's unreal. Well, hey guys, we do appreciate you listening to us, man. Please subscribe to us on YouTube and Anchor and Rumble. Please bring in all of your suggestions. Please let us know what you think of the show. Anything new you want us to talk about, you can send a question to us. We'll be more than happy to bring it out on this podcast. Billy, I know we're running up against time, so I want to just run through this real quick. I had just a couple points on that top 75 list of the NBA that was that came out last Friday at the All-Star game. There was just one point I wanted to make, and maybe it's because I don't like this guy very much. But for the love of me, I don't know why James Harden is a top 50 player of all time in the NBA. Please tell me one thing he's won.
He won several beard competitions. Best beard, longest beard, most funky stuff in the beard. I don't know. I'm with you. I mean, he's a nice player, but
there was. Hold on a second. Let me get to this point here. I'll have a little farther. Is he better? So you're telling me he's better than Robert Parrish and Dave Cowens?
No, and no.
He's better than Sam Jones. You just passed. I mean, Sam Jones has only got about 10 rings. I mean, I don't get how he was better than Elvin Hayes.
No.
Willis Reed. I know for sure he's not better than James Worthy. And James Worthy's at 56. You never convinced me that James Harden was as good as James Worthy. Never. Earl Monroe? Pete Maravich?
No way, Pistol Pete. No.
Clyde Drexler? George Gervin? I mean, I was amazed when I saw him he was at 50. He was at number 50. I said, there's no way James Harden could win a horse game against George Gervin, and probably couldn't beat him now if he tried to George Gervin.
I think today's players get a little bit higher ranking in these things because I noticed it with the baseball guys. I noticed it almost every time. I don't know. It's because they're great interviews. They're fun guys to deal with.
Right.
Maybe these guys just see them more often now.
Yes, I think that has a lot to do with it. Every one of their games is on TV, where back in the day, you were lucky to get a Sunday afternoon game for a lot of these guys in the 70s and the 60s. I mean, and heck, he had the finals on tape delay until 1985. So, I mean, I think that has a lot to do with it. And also social media presence. You've got all that was there that's, keeps people. I mean, James Harden is in the news year round. when Dave Collins put his sneakers up after winning the championship, he went into Indiana and fished. It said, I'll see you guys in late September. So I think out of pocket, out of sight, out of mind had a lot to do with that back then. But yes, I was amazed at that. And here's your friend. I know you're very high on him, on the Greek Freak. You would like to know where he's put on this list? He's at number 18. Now, I have a problem with him being at number 18 because we're projecting his career at this point in time. We're saying he's going to be this good another 10 years. I have a problem with that because you move down guys who we already know are greats that got their stats that they're done on that list. I thought that was way too high for him. I mean, and they had him and Chris Paul at 29. I said, yes, Chris Paul, not a top 30 player of all time. Another guy hasn't won anything. Now, he's got some bullet points. Don't get me wrong. He's got 30, I think he's got 20,000 points and 10,000 assists. I mean, that's huge. No other player's got that many. I get it. He's fifth in all time in steals. But you mean to tell me he is the 29th best player to ever play in the NBA?
Well, you've got to have more hides on the wall. You've got to have more time to make some of these decisions. And they should just flat out say, look, these guys that only have 2 or 3 years in the NBA, we're going to have to wait on.
If you're going to put the Greek Freak at 18, where's Luka then?
Right.
I mean, if you're projecting numbers, you might as well check Luka on there. And he's not on the top 75.
Well, and neither one of them should be. They should say, these are guys we think will be.
Yes.
You know, when we make this list 5 years from now,
yes,
we think the Greek Freak could be a top 30 and Luka could be a top 30 and whatever. But come on, you've got to do it over time. I mean, just like when we were talking about Don Mattingly earlier, if he doesn't have his back issue, he's a Hall of Famer. He's going to get another 5 years out of that body and put up numbers. If Thurman Munson's plane doesn't crash, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame, no problem.
Yeah.
But those things happen. So, yeah, that's way too damn early.
I was amazed at that. I really was. But, yeah, you should guys go check it out on ESPN. If you disagree with us, man, we'd love for you to shoot us some points back on that. I think that would be great to go back and forth with you a little bit on that. But I was just amazed at a couple of those things. I had 2 others, but I'll talk about that another day. But I wanted to get very quickly, because we don't want to take too much of your time here. I've got a top 10 list here, and my buddy Billy Martin Jr. is going to do his starting 5 with positions. So we have a point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, and a center. So that don't get mad because if somebody's left off because of that reason. You know, he's actually doing a starting 5. You know, but for me, I had it number 10 as Akeem Olajuwon. I think he's one of the best players ever suited up for a guy that picked up basketball about 2 years before he went to the University of Houston. I mean, not bad, and made himself an all-time great. I have Oscar Robertson. He was one of the best scorers to ever play this game at number 9.
Big O.
The Big O. He got him in Nashville. Finally got his ring with Milwaukee in 1973 with Kareem and Bobby Dandridge. I have at number 9. I have at number 8. And I'm going to get killed for this, and I don't care. I have LeBron at 8. Now, yes, give me that he's got 4 of these championships. He's also got 6 losses in those championship games too over there. And I said, he's the only person I know that wants to play with the best of the best to be the best.
Yeah,
I have a problem with that. I really do. So all you LeBron lovers, please fill up my inbox, because I hate that people even thought he was good as Jordan for the last 5 or 6 years. I hated hearing that, and I definitely don't want to hear it now. At 7, I've got Kobe. Enough said, great player, competitive guy, another guy that was competitive as all get up, didn't want to lose anything. I have number 6, I've got Larry Bird. I mean, Bird to me, he's my second favorite player of all time behind Jordan. And at times I like Bird more than I like Jordan at times. That's how much I like Bird. I thought he played the game the right way. And that guy was not going to blow by you with any kind of quickness or any kind of athleticism. And he wasn't going to jump over you. All he was going to do was beat the tar out of you.
Well, like Luka.
Yes.
Like Luka, he had his own rhythm that was so unique.
Yes.
He dribbled slower than the other guys.
Absolutely.
But it was his own pace, and he always found a way he could create. And it was weird because it's just like watching Luka for me. I have flashbacks all the time with Larry Bird because he looks slower, but boom, boom, all of a sudden he's driving the lane and scoring, pulling up and shooting against guys that are quicker, faster, stronger, jump higher than him.
Yep.
It was fun to watch, and I do get little flashbacks every now and then today.
And another guy that had a bad back could have had a few more good years if his back wasn't all jacked up. Really kind of hit him at kind of the tail end of his prime. And
watching him and Magic go at it, what was better than him and Magic going at it?
Now, I am a number one Laker hater, but I do have 3 Lakers on this list.
Because the more you hate them, the more you end up respecting them.
Right. I'm unbiased when I call it the BDEI. It's called the Ball Dome Eye Index, and it doesn't lie. And it's Magic Johnson at 4. And the reason is he ahead of Bird because he beat him 3 times out of 5. Head-to-head and championship.
Well, here's another reason too. He could play every damn position on the court. Who else could do that? What other point guard could you put at center and have him be successful?
And he scores 32 points and 18 rebounds and 11 assists. I mean, as a rookie.
The guy really was magic.
Yes. In Game 7 on the road at the Spectrum. Yeah. I said, he's pretty good. 4th, I've got Kareem, unblockable shot of all time. You never blocked his shot at all. Plus, that guy just wins. He's got 3 national championships at UCLA. He's got 6 NBA rings. I mean, that guy was good. I think
who could stop the skyhook? Nobody could stop the skyhook.
You could argue maybe move him up even a little bit. I got at 3, Wilt Chamberlain. He changed the game. He made a 3-second line. He scored 100 points in a game. He averaged 44 rebounds 1 year. When they told him he was shooting too much, he led the league the next year in assists as a Laker. He
scored 100 points in a game.
And if he wanted to, he could have been the best volleyball player to ever play the game too.
Ever.
He did that in the off season, for fun. And he was one of the best to ever play. Number 2, I've got Bill Russell. And I got Bill Russell here for one reason only, 11 rings. First black man to ever coach an NBA championship, albeit he was a player coach that year for the Celtics. But that's pretty high praise when Red Auerbach gives you those keys to that car that he had driven for so long, that high run. And he said, Bill, you're the most qualified to do this.
Yes, he did.
And not only that, Bill Russell brought something to the NBA that never had before, a defensive center. He was the guy that protected the rim. The NBA hadn't seen that before. And he actually brought shot blocking to the NBA. And that's a big bullet point. And obviously, you guys know Michael Jordan's the best. I don't think there's a close second, period. I don't want to hear it. Don't give me this, or that. I don't care. Michael Jordan's the best to ever lace him up. Done.
Well,
you give us your team. I'm looking forward to this.
Well, my starting 5, and I only have one position where it gets kind of weird, but Magic's my point guard. Jordan's my 2.
Not bad.
Bird's my 3. So that's where I could make him a power forward, right? I mean, if I make him a power forward, then I could add a LeBron. I could add a Dr. J. I tried to think of the kind of teams I like, and I like that power forward that's like I literally considered a Rodman.
Yeah.
Because I don't know that I've ever seen a better rebounder in my life than Dennis Rodman.
Or play harder. Or play harder.
Right? And so then I lean towards a Barkley a little bit because he could rebound almost as good as he could, but he could also create and shoot a little bit, right?
Yes.
And also that was to me my power forward. Wilt Chamberlain was my center. But you could easily put a LeBron James, a Dr. J.
Sure.
You can mix that in over a Barkley.
Yeah, you got swing because Julius Erving played he played some power forward, but I mean he's really probably more of a small forward. Julius Erving at 6'7" is a small forward. Yeah. I don't see that, really, but the way he played as a, that's not a stretch too. That's a leaping sensation. But yeah, you're right.
And Magic was my favorite of all time. It was the best, and I hated him. I didn't hate him.
I was a hater.
I was a big Boston fan. Yes. My father and Red Auerbach were friends. They used to smoke cigars together.
Gotcha.
One of my baby presents was a Celtics basketball signed by the whole team. Nice. And so I grew up watching the Celtics with my dad. My dad loved basketball. He loved he hated the dunk. He wanted them to outlaw dunking in the NBA because he felt like it took away from what to him was a beautiful part of the game. The passing and the working the ball around. And, so I love that team. I was a big Danny Ainge fan as a kid because he was a great baseball player too. He just couldn't hit a curveball. Otherwise, you never know where he'd have gone. But I grew up a Celtics fan. And like you said, over the years, I fell in love with Magic. The respect for them. And to me, he was the most versatile player to ever play the game. Yep. And I wonder if he'd been just a shooting guard. Could he have? I feel like I can make that case that he could have scored like Jordan, but could Jordan have ever been the point guard he was?
Probably not.
I don't know that. And Jordan made so many of those last second shots that I don't mean to knock him, but
and you remember Magic Johnson couldn't shoot from the outside when he first came into the NBA. He made himself a really good shooter in his career. I mean, so if he always was concentrating on being a two guard, I mean, he already had Hall of Fame talent and Hall of Fame desire. So, yes, he could have been just as good as anybody else. No question of that. But yeah, I think you and he both kind of that same thing. It was the hated Lakers. Well, let me tell you something. They were really good.
They were respected.
They were really, really good. And it took me to get my older years to realize, man, we saw some Hall of Famers in their prime play, and you looked at your list on your top 5, 4 of those guys were on the dream team.
Yeah,
that's how good that dream team was. I mean, it's unreal, But the Lakers, I mean, Pat Riley, Fitch, and Casey Jones. I mean, going back and forth between West Coast, East Coast. I mean, it was. I don't. The NBA will probably never capture the nation like they did for that decade when those two were in the NBA playing against each other. It's just because we have too many things to do now. Back then, you had such limited channels and TV watching. It was a stop must. Even the regular season games were big. I remember CBS would always do that Sunday afternoon with the Lakers in the regular season, and that was a stop down. Both teams, already got the division wrapped up pretty much, and all that. It didn't matter because you know what? Nope. Those guys in the green, they hated those guys in the yellow and purple, and those yellow and purple those guys in the green and the white.
Absolutely.
It was awesome. But yes, man. Well, hey guys, we do appreciate you listening to us here on this very frigid night here in Dallas, about 24 degrees. So I'm sure when we see you guys next week, it'll be in the 70s. But we do appreciate you listening to us. It's our favorite time to play with you, to share our sports opinions with you guys on a weekly basis. Again, subscribe to us on Rumble and on YouTube, please, and like us on our various media outlets. Balls of the Wall, it's all the way around. You can just hashtag Balls of the Wall, and it'll come up for us. We appreciate that. Please bring in your suggestions. Billy Martin, thank you so much. I appreciate you being patient with me today since I was so forgetful.
Oh, you've only done that to me about 3 or 4 times, so it's okay.
Thanks so much. We're out. We'll see you guys next week.